YouTube, and welcome to Bub's World. I'm your host Bub, and today we're going to get into some comics that I picked up at the Kentucky Flea Market. So every few times a year they have a flea market in Kentucky Expo Center. It's close to the airport in Louisville. What's nice about it is that it's free admission. The parking's $10, but they give you $5 back when you get in the door. So basically $5 for everybody you can load in a car, including a few people you stuffed in the trunk right before the gates. So big win there, and everybody gets to go and have a good time shopping. In the past, I've been moderately impressed with this place. What happens is that there's usually a lot of a mix of things, but then if you keep going, you see the same vendors. But they may have different things. So this time I was able to pick up some comics and some vinyl records. I will get to the vinyl records in another haul, or maybe I already have. I don't know. The magic of YouTube. But in the meantime, let's get to some of these comics. And also there's a caveat to these comics. They're not all here, but let's make me small and get to the haul. Yo! There it is. All right. Waking up to some Hollywood Cat. Can't beat that. Hey. All right. So first off, I got a couple of books that were thrown in free. So I went to a dealer I've bought from before, and this guy on occasion has some, well, actually all the time, has some Cableman books, and he had a little lot of Cableman books, and I went through them and I picked out a few. I will show that in a separate haul as well. So there'll be a Cableman haul coming, a vinyl haul coming. So it was a pretty good day for old Bubsy. Me and the wife had a good time wandering around. Well, I had a good time. She had fun. And then we went to eat at one of our favorite little Italian restaurants over in that area. So it worked out pretty good. All right, so let's take a look. First, he said, all right, since you went ahead and bought so much on the Cableman books, and we negotiated a little bit. I didn't pay full price, but it was still a pretty good chunk of change. And he said, okay, well, since you paid up on those, why don't you pick out 2 books out of the, I think he had like a $2 bin or something like that. So I went through and I picked up Spider-Man number 2. You guys know that I'll be setting up like a vendor booth at some local cons soon. So I thought this is a good book. It is definitely near mint plus. There's not a bend, a tick, or anything on this book. It is absolutely pristine. It's funny, a lot of times you'll see a book and you'll think, oh, that's in really good shape. But when you're looking at a book that is near perfect, you know it. Like, this book doesn't look like most of the other books in my collection. Like, you're just looking at it, you're like, wow, that is a perfect copy of that book. And this is super sharp corners, perfect alignment. It's a really, really clean copy of the book. So I thought I'd slap a nice old price sticker on that and sell it at my table next. I do like the cover. I do like the book, but I've had this run a few times. I think I've had the first 11 or so issues of this run twice before. And I just always end up letting them go out of the collection, and I'll probably do the same with this one. But very cool McFarlane cover. And yeah, that's nice. That's a nice book. All right. Also out of the freebie bin, I got this Flair number 1, which for you Flair fans is really not number 1. It's really like number 3 or something, because she had 2 other first appearances, if you will, number 1s. This one is by Mark Beachman, maybe. I don't know. We'll take a look. We'll put it up there. But pretty cool cover. The interior's okay. It's not really my style. It's good girl art, but it's not great good girl art. So probably let this one go too. But I thought, hey, I'll take it for the low price of free. All right, next, let's get into another vendor had some promo comics. And that's the thing about this flea market, is that there's a lot of Golden Age. And that, like, I saw more Golden Age books and, early Silver Age books at the flea market than I've seen in most cons that I go to. I mean, there was just a bunch. Now, they had the real expensive stuff too, but just generic Golden Age kind of stuff to look through bins, a lot of pulps and things like that. So If you're in the area and you're not going to the Kentucky Flea Market, you're missing out. And also, there's a lot of good deals, really, because even the big books, and they were underselling those by several $100s. So if you've got the scratch and you want to make a flip, you could definitely do it off a place like this. So here we have a book I've been after for a while. It's Wonder Woman number 62. And you guys know that I collect doppelganger covers. So I like when there's, multiple versions of the character on the same cover. It's kind of a side collection that I'm running from within my collection. So here we have Wonder Woman number 62. Of course, this is from the 50s originally, but this is the Pizza Hut Collector's Edition Volume 1. So look at that. Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman. Very nice. So this was obviously a promo that was done, I assume given out from Pizza Hut. I don't think they ever sold any of their comics. So centering's not great. Could use a better job on that. But for the most part, it's all there. Pretty nice copy of it. And these actually go for a little bit of money too. The reprint promos. I would still like to have an original, but my guess is that the original isn't going to look as good as this copy. So I'm definitely going to hold on to this. Plus I like promo books. So definitely going to hold on to this one. Very cool. And love my doppelgangers. And if you can get 3 for the price of 1, that's an extra special treat. All right, next we got Mr. Ed, the Talking Horse. You guys know I'm a Mr. Ed fan. Wilbur. And we got, this is another promo comic. This is actually March of Comics number 244, if memory serves. I'm going to throw the little thing up there. But this is from Myers Shoe Department in Lexington, Kentucky. So the way that this worked was that this March of Comics was an imprint of Gold Key, I believe. And Gold Key would send these out to department stores, specialty stores. And there's a ton of them out there, and they would all have this kind of yellowy block at the bottom where there was nothing. And then either you'd have a store stamp, or some of them have really nice printed bottoms. So I'm wondering if maybe they, requested a certain insignia to be put on there or a logo. This one just has a generic stamp to a shoe store that's long since gone. Of course, this is the shoe department of that store. And the story inside is about Mr. Ed getting new shoes. Couldn't work the guy down on price on this one, but I only paid $10 for it. But he was really like, "Oh, it's worth $10." And it was funny because the same vendor I dealt with, I don't know, 6 months ago, and he was super nice and really friendly. And well, I don't know if he was really friendly, but he was a nice guy. He wasn't a jerk, that's for sure. And then this time, he was very standoffish, kind of, I looked through his boxes. He never picked up his head to talk to me or say anything to me. I looked through his wall books. Usually that sparks a little bit of conversation. Nothing. Like the guy was just totally stone-faced and just didn't want to have a good time today. And he was talking to another dealer, pretty much ignored me. And then this was the only book I was able to pull out that I thought was reasonably priced. And he had a ton of Golden Age stuff, but I just didn't want to swing that kind of price tag this weekend. And so I pulled this one out, and I was like, okay, I had already worked with the dealer that he was talking with down on something else, on a vinyl record that he had, of all things. And I worked him down on that, and then he was like, okay, he was like, nope. He said, that's near mint, which it's not. But he was like, that's near mint. I mean, it's close to near mint, but it's not. It's got dings and dents. And when you get into the interior, there's a little bit of issue on the back cover. So, I mean, it's not near mint. But he was adamant that it was just a pristine copy of this book. And I was like, you know what? It is a nice copy. I was willing to pay $10. I was only going to try and get him down to like 8 or something. So it wasn't a big deal. But I just find it funny how sometimes dealers, if you guys have ever had an experience like that, put it in the comments below. For those of you still watching, you ever had an experience like that where a dealer is nice to you one show, and then the next show they're kind of like, hateful. All right. Next up, This was the steal of the day as far as comics go. I was walking through, came up to this booth that was largely unattended, but the guy that the next door booth was helping out, but everything was priced, so it was no big deal. So he had a bin of books that were labeled $5. It was just a $5 bin. and he had all the tops of the bags marked, so there was no switcheroo going on here. And this guy had a very, very, very good copy of a book that I already have. So here is the book that I already have. It's The Wolf Man from Dell. And you guys know I like my werewolf books. And this is a pretty tough book. Now, I had already seen this book twice at the convention thus far. At the flea market thus far. I'd already seen this book 2 other places. So this was the 3rd time I saw this book. And one seller had it for about $45, and one seller had it for $35, and both in conditions similar to this. Now, I bought this book, you know, I can't remember where. I feel like it was at a convention, but it was a long time ago, and it was, I think I paid $12 or $13 for it. It's really rough condition, but I was happy to have it. And then I come across this gem for $5. Look at that beauty. Perfect colors. It's even got a date stamp. June 9th, 1964. Isn't that cool? Oh, I love good date. Nice clean date stamps are my favorite. Oh, it looks so good. So look at my old copy and look at my new copy. I mean, you can hardly recognize those two as the same book. This one's really beat. I mean, look at the bottom corners and everything. This one is so clean. Very nice. Got a little bit of like minor maybe rub or chew there, and a little bit up there, but man, nothing compared to my old copy. This one is super nice. And for half what I paid the other one, only $5 for that. Oh man, I couldn't believe it. I felt like taking it, like you ever get a deal so good, you feel like taking that book to the other dealers that you didn't buy from, being like, look, this is what you should have charged and I'd have bought your book, you know? But, you know, I'll sell this one at a reasonable price at my booth next and hold on to this one. Just love this one. And this one I'll probably let go. You know, I have some thoughts, and I won't take too long on it, but just quick thoughts on all the tax stuff that's been all the hoopla and the whatnot here lately. So people have been complaining a lot, especially sellers, complaining about the new tax requirements for 2022. And from my understanding of it, and I don't have to get too deep into how I have this understanding, but my basic understanding of it is that there will be some changes and there are going to be some more stringent guidelines. Certainly, the people it will affect the most, in my opinion, are flippers. People who are flipping books, just, you know, if you buy a book and and you have small margins, you take a book, you flip it for, you know, you're trying to make $10, let's say. Trying to make $10, trying to make $15, trying to make $20. I feel like if your margin on a book is $20 or less and it's a single sale as opposed to like a lot of books or a grouping of books, then I think those are the people it's going to affect the most. And you say, well, Bub, that affects the buyers too. It does affect the buyers. But I feel like what you're going to see now is a return to the convention space. In the past, these dealers and shops have taken to selling online because it's easy, and especially because people are buying and selling, they're kind of, you know, sliding sales under there. Not all shops and not all dealers are doing that, but a lot of people have turned to Facebook Marketplace and eBay and other type places to offload books and make small margins, but keep the flow going. And this outlet is essentially going to be closed to them. And people will say that there'll be workarounds, and I've heard this quite a bit. And yes, there will be people who get around this system. There's people who will get around every system. However, the majority of your buyers, the majority of your marketplace are in the general public. The black market on comics is small, you know, and the more that they turn these other, you know, marketplaces into the black market, it's going to keep shrinking. So you may have sellers moving to those markets to try and save money, but the buyers aren't going with you. The buyers are in the general public. We just want to have a straight up sale. You're a business. You worry about paying your taxes the way you want. So a lot of sellers, especially on like Instagram and stuff like that, who are just flipping books real quick, and you know, they buy a book at the shop for $5, they try and sell it for 20. You know, that kind of stuff is going to get knocked down pretty hard, because at the end of the year, they're going to have to pay those taxes. And people will say, Bub, you're wrong, because for the whole year of 2022, there'll be plenty of people who still do it, pretending that they're not going to get that tax bill at the end of the year. So they're still going to do it, but their tune will change in 2023. So I think for 2022, you're going to see about half the dealers who are, thinking ahead are either going to come up with another way to sell their books properly, increase prices, or get a better margin on their profits. And then you're going to have a bunch of people who leave and stop selling this way. And hopefully those people will go to places like the Kentucky Flea Market, or places like, any kind of in-person sales. Why? Because those are all cash-based, and it's very easy to hide your sales in a, vendor cash-based system. So if they're looking to get around it, that's the easiest way where you can still find a ton of customers, would be like a convention or something like that. But there's going to be a ton of people who continue to sell and just ignore all the warning signs and just say, you don't know what you're talking about. I'll figure it out at the end of the year. And when the end of the year comes, they're going to have a huge tax bill, and that's going to shut down their big flipping operation that they've been running for a few years. So that's what I think is going to happen. This is my early prediction on the comic market. I think we're going to see a return to in-person sales and a resurgence of conventions and flea markets and yard sales and all this kinds of stuff that people were, selling back to comic shops will come back. People are like, oh, they give you 25 cents and all that stuff. That's not been my experience, but some people, some shops, maybe that is. But I think that you're going to see a return to people buying in person, because it ultimately will be the easiest way for people to offload their books and skirt around Uncle Sam just a little bit. Hopefully they're still paying taxes, and hopefully they're still doing what they're supposed to be doing. But ultimately, I think that's going to be where people gravitate. They're going to return to basics, which is, selling. Because basically the problem is payments. Making payments online, PayPal, Venmo, all these Cash App things. And anytime you have a facilitator, they're going to report too. So Facebook Marketplace, eBay, whatever. So only the big online retailers, they're not going to see any difference. They've been paying their taxes from the beginning. Everything's on the up and up. So if you buy from like mycomicshop.com or Heritage Auctions, any of that stuff, all that's already above board. All that is already happening normally. But anytime you send somebody just a PayPal thing and put your what books in the lot you bought and send it to someone like from an Instagram sale, that stuff's going to shrink pretty hard. Big books, small books, doesn't matter, especially the smaller books, because why sell a book for $2 that you bought for $2 and then make no money and had to pay taxes, So, and people aren't good at keeping records. I mean, historically, people don't keep records well. And if you're not keeping good records, it's going to be very hard to prove how much you paid for a book. People in our community, people in our hobby, they like to think in a value basis. Like, this book is worth $30. If I sell it for $40, I paid $5 for this book, but it's worth $40. And if I sell it for $50, then I made $10. I was like, wait a minute, that's not how it works. You made $45 on that book. If you bought it for $5, sold it for $50, you made $45. Yeah, but I got a steal on that book. You can't count that. That's how like our collectors' minds work, We look at things like, what's the value of this book, not what I actually paid. And you're keeping records to prove what you paid, not what the value is. So, and a lot of people trying to sell books that they've had for 20 years or even 2 years, they don't remember what they have, and they certainly don't have proof of what they paid for it. So anyway, that's my thought. Good luck to everybody in this year. I really, really hope that if you are selling books and you're doing this as a living and you need to make a legitimate business out of it, good for you. Hopefully it works out. I really want prosperity for everybody this year. And I think for those who are not looking to pay too much taxes and looking to have it more of a horse trading type business, then go back to the conventions. Spend your money there. Spend your money in local cons, and let's beef up the con scene this year, because that's always historically long since been the best way to get out of paying the extra fees and such, is to deal in person and deal in cash. All right, we'll catch you next time in Bub's World. Remember to read a comic and don't apologize for the glare. Bye-bye.